All right, thank you for joining us for our Wednesday, June 3rd meeting, and thank you for your patience. We had a lot of wonderful interviews for some different committee positions that we will be filling later on in the meeting, and they went a little bit long. We had great candidates to discuss, so thanks for your patience. This meeting is being held as a hybrid meeting with both in-person attendance and teleconference access via Zoom. We will start our meeting off with a land acknowledgement. The City of Arcata acknowledges that the land we are located on are the unceded ancestral lands of the Wiyot tribe. The land that Arcata rests on is known in the Wiyot language as Gudini, meaning over in the woods or among the redwoods. Past actions by local, state, and federal governments removed the Wiyot and other indigenous peoples from the land and threatened to destroy their cultural practices. The City of Arcata acknowledges the Wiyot community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement seeks to aid in dismantling the legacy narratives of settler colonialism. And if you would like to, you can join us for the flag salute. Could the city clerk please take roll?
Vice Mayor Atkins Salazar,
I'm here filling in for Mayor White.
Councilmember Matthews,
Here.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Here.
Councilmember Stillman.
Present.
Mayor White is absent, but we do have a quorum.
Thank you. If you wish to make a comment during the meeting, either for an individual agenda item or during the second oral and written communications period under item 11, there are 3 ways to do so. If you're here in person, we ask that you please line up behind the podium when the item you would like to speak on is accepting public comment. If you are logged onto Zoom, you can click the raise your hand when it's time for public comment on the item in which you wish to speak. If you are on the phone, press *9 on your phone and that'll raise your hand. And when it is your turn, you will be prompted to dial *6 on your phone. For these items, we will be taking public comment in person first, and then moving on to the online comments. We won't be going back and forth. So if you're wanting to make a comment, please make sure that you line up by the podium or raise your electronic hand as soon as public comment is requested for that item. We have several ceremonial matters for this evening. So the first one is the proclamation and recognition of World Oceans Day, which is June 8th, and that will be read by Councilmember Schaefer.
Okay, World Oceans Day, June 8th, 2026. Whereas the ocean provides 1/2 of the oxygen we breathe, regulates our climate, and provides us with food, water, and economic support. World Oceans Day is an annual opportunity to honor the world's oceans by building awareness of the crucial role that the ocean plays in our lives. And whereas the people of Humboldt County can help protect our ocean's future by partnering and volunteering with local schools and organizations such as Surfrider Humboldt, Humboldt Waterkeeper, Friends of the Dunes, and the Environmental Protection Information Center. And whereas the City of Arcata's Environmental Services Department also organizes opportunities year-round to help keep our creeks and improve our watershed health by keeping trash from entering Humboldt Bay, thus reducing the impact of marine debris on our ocean ecosystems. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Arcata hereby recognizes June 8th, 2026 to be World Ocean Day, and Arcata encourages the community to participate in coastal and watershed cleanup days throughout the year. And so that is dated today, June 3rd, and signed by our Vice Mayor, Stacy. And we have Jeffrey Steinkamp from Surfrider Humboldt's Executive Committee here to accept.
Okay, thanks. Well, thank you, Arcata, for recognizing World Ocean Day, and I love this progressive little town since I got here in 1987. I remember being the bag monster at the farmers market when you in 2014 banned the use of the single use plastic bag. So some good memories of this progressive town. I'm a committee member of Surfrider. I'm the director of Moonstone Beach Surf Camp, and I've been a resident here since 1987. And I surfed here back in the day when the pulp mills were polluting the air and the water. And so our recognition of, or for our local citizens and environmental advocates and our local community members and or the organizations such as Surf Idle Humboldt, Waterkeeper, Epic, NEC, all those people and boots on the ground have made it possible to have really good, clean air and clean water here. And it reflects every day that I surf, when I go out onto the Samoa Peninsula and also out to our jetties. Also, part of my experience growing up was living down in Ventura and Santa Barbara area where we had oil slicks in the water, and it would get in your hair and on your feet and in your wetsuit and your board. And so anyway, now it's a really important time for us to see what's happening out in the world as far as there's a federal proposed oil drilling, as many of you know, and it's time that we pay really close attention to that. Be active participants in voting positively for our ocean. And yeah, with the Surfrider, often what we do is we offer beach cleanups every single weekend, along with Pacific Outfitters does their thing and City of Arcata. So we can all stay pretty active in helping keep our oceans and our rivers and our watersheds clean, continue to be clean and clear. And that's what drives people here more than anything, I think. Yeah, and to love your beach, one way I recommend loving this ocean that we have here, because it's very formidable and cold, is to buy a wetsuit and get a 5mm wetsuit and with a hood on it and booties, and you can have a relationship with the water here year round. So yeah, I highly recommend that. And you float in it, so you don't sink. And so it's great for your kids. All right, thank you.
All right, next we have a proclamation in celebration of the 4th of July Jubilee, which is July 4th, 2026, and this proclamation will be read by Councilmember Stillman.
The 4th of July Jubilee. It's always a fun event. Whereas the city of Arcata, known for its vibrant community spirit and commitment to fostering local businesses and recognizing the importance of celebrating our nation's independence and the contribution of our local commerce. And whereas the Arcata's Chamber of Commerce has organized a grand event to commemorate this significant day with a festive celebration that brings together businesses, residents, visitors alike, featuring activities, live music, local artisans, food vendors that highlight the diverse talents of our local community. And whereas the Jubilee is the longest running event on the Arcata Plaza dating back to over 150 years, therefore be resolved that the Council of the City of Arcata encourages all residents to attend the Arcata Chamber of Commerce's 4th of July Jubilee on the Arcata Plaza on Saturday, July 4th, 2026, and is signed by our Vice Mayor Stacy Atkinson Salazar. And it will be picked up by Meredith Mayer, our Executive Director of the Arcata Chamber of Commerce, and she's also here with her right hand.
You want to come up, Sal? All right. Well, thank you very much. The Chamber of Commerce looks forward to celebrating the United States 250th anniversary, California's 175th anniversary, and evidently the Jubilee's 150th plus anniversary with the community on the Arcata Plaza on July 4th from 11 to 4 p.m. featuring live music and vendors and general merriment. So we look forward to seeing you guys all down there. Thank you.
Next, we have a proclamation designating June 7th through the 13th, 2026 as the Week of the Oyster, and it will be read by Councilmember Matthews.
All right, the week of the oyster. Whereas the Arcata Chamber of Commerce, to showcase Arcata's relationship to its high quality water resources in Arcata and Humboldt Bays, is producing the 36th annual Arcata Bay Oyster Festival on Saturday, June 13th, 2026, to be held on the plaza and throughout Arcata. And whereas the Arcata Chamber of Commerce's Arcata Bay Oyster Festival attracts visitors from all over the nation and the state of California to enjoy our natural bounty, culinary talent, entertainers, and downtown ambiance while increasing awareness of local resource conservation. And whereas this year the entire community is invited to attend this event on the plaza featuring live music from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday, June 13th. Participants are encouraged to dance the day away, taste the unique culinary creations, join the oyster calling and shuck and swallow contests, check out the Black Humboldt Block, and more. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Arcata hereby designates June 7th through 13th, 2026 as the Week of the Oyster and encourages all community members to enjoy the food, fun, music, and frolic at the Arcata Chamber of Commerce's 36th Annual Arcata Festival on the Arcata Plaza on Saturday, June 13th, signed by our Vice Mayor Stacey Atkins Salazar, and again, Meredith Mayer and Zach Lathoris will pick that up.
Introduction gift. Oyster bandanas from Elise Hazel. Thank you. Oyster Fest actually kicks off tomorrow at the pub at the Creamery at 5:30 for our monthly mixer, and the kickoff party. Buy Vowels and Brews is a shuck and swallow fun run on Sunday. If you guys want to run and drink and eat oysters, it's really good for your stomach. And then on Saturday, we'll culminate with a celebration of the bounty of our bay, the 36th annual Arcata Bay Oyster Festival. And a huge thank you to our event coordinator, Gloria, who has been planning this event for literally a year, and I know she's really looking forward to it kicking off and being over. So thank you guys so much for the honor.
Our next proclamation recognizes June 2026 as National Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, and this proclamation will be read by Councilmember Schaefer.
Recognizing June 2026 as National Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, whereas the Alzheimer's Association is encouraging people of all ages to take charge of their brain health through positive daily actions, and whereas in Humboldt County, it is estimated that 3,589 people who currently live with Alzheimer's or Alzheimer-related dementia. There are another 8,500 caregivers who are caring for a loved one with Alzheimer's. Whereas throughout June, the Alzheimer's Association invites individuals and partners to take action, whether by learning about brain health, adopting healthy habits, raising awareness by going purple, supporting fundraising efforts, volunteering, or advocating for early detection and research. Together, these efforts can help drive progress and support families impacted by Alzheimer's. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Arcata recognizes June 2026 as Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, and the Council thanks the Alzheimer's Association for providing services to people and families coping with dementia. And today we have Julie Perez, a volunteer of Alzheimer's Association of Northern California, to accept the proclamation.
Hi there. As you already know, my name is Julie Perez. I'm here tonight representing the Alzheimer's Association. We just wanted to say thank you to the mayor and members of the Arcata City Council on behalf of the Alzheimer's Association, the 3,300 people living in Humboldt County with this deadly disease, their families, and caregivers. We thank you for this proclamation recognizing June as Alzheimer's Brain Awareness Month. I have 3 handouts to share with everyone. Early detection is very important, so it's best to know the 10 warning signs. You'll see it on the slip. First is memory loss that disrupts daily life. Second would be challenges in planning or solving problems. 3, difficulty completing familiar tasks. 4, confusion with time or place. Trouble understanding visual images and spatial relationships. 6, new problems with words in speaking or writing. 7 would be misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace their steps. 8 is a decreased or poor judgment. 9 is a withdrawal from work or social interaction. 10, changes in mood or personality. The newest research shows that a healthy brain can slow down the progress of this disease. We would like to invite everybody to the walk. This year, it's going to be October 10th from 9 a.m. to noon. If anybody would like more information, whether it be about support or about the walk, about donating, if you want to form a team, all of it is available at alz.org, and it is also included with a QR code on the cards that were passed out. So just wanted to say thank you so much again, and we appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Okay, we have one more. Clearly, June is a busy month, and this is a proclamation recognizing June 2026 as Pride Month, and the proclamation will be read by Councilmember Matthews.
Yeah, before I read this, I hope that everybody will be able to join us tomorrow at noon at City Hall so we can raise the pride flag. So we are recognizing June 2026 as Pride Month, whereas the City of Arcata recognizes the month of June as Pride Month, honoring the rich histories, contribution, and ongoing struggles of the two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, asexual, and all gender-expansive individuals, 2S, LGBTQIA+, and whereas Pride Month commemorates the 1969 Stonewall Uprising, an act of resistance against police brutality led by Black and brown trans women, femmes, and queer youth, including trailblazers such as Martha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, whose courage ignited a global movement for liberation and dignity. And whereas today, 2S LGBTQIA+ people, especially transgender and gender nonconforming individuals, youth, and Black, Indigenous, and people of color, BIPOC community members, face escalating threats to their safety, bodily autonomy, and rights under a growing wave of anti-LGBTQ+ legislation and rhetoric across the country, and the City of Arcata reaffirms its unwavering commitments to the safety, rights, visibility, and joy of 2S LGBTQIA+ communities. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Arcata hereby recognizes June as Pride Month and calls on our community not only to celebrate Pride, but to defend it through action, solidarity, and a shared commitment to justice for all, dated June 3rd, 2026, signed by our Vice Mayor, Stacey Atkins-Salazar, and Julie from Queer Humboldt's going to pick this up.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Julie, and I use they, them, and she, her pronouns. As the youth mentor and policy specialist at Queer Humboldt, I'd like to thank Arcata City Council for this proclamation and continuing to recognize June as Two-Spirit LGBTQIA+ Pride Month. As an Arcata resident of 13 years, I am privileged to live in this city and feel safe walking the streets as an openly queer and trans person. There is visibility, love, and acceptance. There is an openness here, and trans people from across the country are coming to this community, especially the last couple of years. Last August, Arcata was officially recognized as a sanctuary city for two-spirit, transgender, gender nonconforming, and intersex people. I feel extremely lucky to live here. But unfortunately, in many places across this country, this is not the case for a lot of transgender people. In the last 2 months, there have been several transgender people murdered, most of them trans people of color, for simply being their authentic selves. We cannot erase this violence, but we can combat it. I urge every one of you to honor these lives taken by continuing to take the necessary steps of action to ensure that all transgender people have access to safe housing, healthcare, and equal protection under the law. As we celebrate Pride Month, we must remember that Pride was born out of protests led by trans women of color fighting for their lives. And while this month is about queer and trans joy, it must also be about justice. We cannot truly celebrate Pride while our trans siblings, especially Black and brown trans women, face an epidemic of fatal violence. This June, let Pride be a promise to protect the living, honor the fallen, and fight for a world where every queer and trans person can walk down the streets in their community, live openly, and be safe. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our ceremonial matters, and thank you for everyone who joined us in person to accept the proclamations. We don't have any reports by commission or committee, so that will take us into staff reports. All reports shall be specifically limited to city business and shall not request or lead to action by the council at this meeting. Today, we will be receiving an update regarding the city's excessive residential electricity users tax from our Deputy Director of Environmental Services, Emily Benby.
Good evening, City Council and community members. So this item has been brought forth based on the request of council members to have, we'll call it a state of the excessive energy use tax. So the purpose of tonight's meeting or agenda item is to provide the council with background refresher information and some historical trends related to the excessive energy use tax. I'm going to call that EEUT most likely, so just that acronym disclaimer. And there will be no council action requested for this meeting, so this is really to kind of understand where we might want to go from here without taking any action. A lot of text on this slide, bear with me. The EEUT was a ballot measure passed by the voters in 2012 initially, and again in 2022. And in effect, it is a 45% tax on electricity, on residential electricity that's over 600% of the baseline allowance. Pausing to unpack that a little bit, the baseline allowance is something that the CPUC, I believe, sets that basically, depending on time of year and location, it establishes what is considered like a normal use for a resident. So that's what the term baseline allowance means in effect. And then the 600% would be the consumption of greater than 6 times what that baseline allocation is. The EEUT applies to residential customers only. And there is only one exception as identified in the ballot measure language, and that is for the medical baseline allowance. So for instance, if a resident was on a life support device and that generates a whole lot of electricity, they would be exempt from the tax. There is also an all-electric baseline, and so that is if a residence has a permanently installed electric heating system. They can adjust their baseline to be the all-electric baseline through requesting that of PG&E, and that increases that allowance by 92%. So it's intended to take into account the fact that all-electric space heating generates more electricity, and therefore it's likely that there would be a higher reasonable use. The EEUT supports general fund revenue, and that includes the energy activity budget. And so the energy activity budget is a activity budget that we have within the city, and it's funded by general fund revenue as well as grant funds from time to time when we receive those. So just to kind of expand a little bit on what that energy activity budget is and how it's funded. It's not directly funded by the EEUT, but the EEUT funds the general fund. And so in effect, they are one and the same. And then it sunsets in 2036, so 10 more years based on the current ballot measure. The primary goals of the EEUT are to assist the city in its greenhouse gas emission reduction goals and really disincentivizing the extremely high electricity use. I found it a little bit funny that the resolution actually states that it's to disincentivize electricity use that serves no residential provide and I think part of that could be that in 2012, that was before my time at the city, but to provide a little bit of context, there was a real housing shortage at the time in Arcata, and a lot of the single-family residences were being used to cultivate cannabis at that time. And so not only was the city aiming to reduce that greenhouse gas emissions in general, but it was really a targeted approach to both increase available housing while also decreasing greenhouse gas emissions. So this is the data that's really interesting. Back at the time of passage, 2012, so before the tax actually went into effect, it was estimated that there were about 633 residential meters that would have been subject to the EEUT. After it took effect, there were plus or minus 90 individual meters. So you can imagine 90 houses were subject to the EEUT. That has Fluctuated a bit over time, but really has been steadily decreasing. And currently, it's estimated that we have about 17 meters. And I use the term estimated because, again, it can fluctuate month over month, but we do get data from PG&E every month, how many meters there are, what the amount of revenue it's been generating, and what the kilowatt hours are. So we've got pretty fine-grained data. Coincident with the decrease in meters is a decrease in the revenue that has been generated through the EEUT. So since 2013, in aggregate, it's estimated that the city has generated about $2.5 million total. So that was no individual year, but that's the cumulative. It looks around 450,000 was that 90 meter equivalent when the tax had initially come into effect. 2013, 2014, kind of accounting for that time lag. And then now we're estimating that the city receives about 40,000 per year in revenue. And so it's a good thing the revenue has gone down because it shows that the tax has really had its intended purpose. You know, the flip side of that is the revenue has gone down. And so I wanted to point out that the Measure H sales tax that was passed, in part, was to address climate change impacts, and it could be considered a revenue source that helps offset that lost EEUT revenue. And certainly that's how city staff has kind of been thinking about it, recognizing that this new general fund tax has come online, and so part of that is to help offset the diminished revenue of the EEUT general fund. Over the years, particularly in the last couple of years, we have been receiving, I wouldn't say a lot of feedback, but I would say relatively more compared to, 7-8 years ago, about the EEUT specifically. And I think a lot of that is based on the electrification of homes as more and more folks are transitioning to electric heating, electric water heating, space heating, and then electric vehicles. Certainly they have felt the impacts of the EEUT coming into effect and then having to pay that 45% tax. One challenge, I'm going a little bit out of order in my bullets here, but one of the challenges is that there is, as I mentioned, that residential baseline adjustment, but that has to come, PG&E needs to approve that. Sometimes the city has stepped in to support that communication with customer service to ensure that approval happens, and sometimes it can take up to several months for that approval to take effect and then the actual residential baseline to get switched to that all electric. And so customers will get refunded for that time that they were paying if they have electrified. But it can be really challenging, on a month-to-month basis if you're paying that tax waiting for your refund to be issued. So very much can appreciate the challenge that some of our residences have felt. Recognizing again, currently we're seeing about 17 meters citywide that are subject to the tax. So it's really a small subset, but it's a very impacted subset of our community. We have tried to really strengthen our outreach and education on the EEUT topic. Again, because it's such a small subset of the community, it can be kind of hard to really fully message the EEUT and shifting to residential baseline and efficiency measures, et cetera, et cetera. But we have developed public service announcements, press releases. We've worked with our CEA staff in developing some of those and extending our education and outreach reach, as well as how-tos for switching the PG&E baseline to all electric. We have provided city information on the city website. And again, we've made direct contact with PG&E as needed if residents or community members reach out to us, inquiring, why am I getting this tax? I have switched to all electric and, this is really a disincentive. There certainly is, I'm trying to think of how to say this. There is more data, I think, that we could explore as far as how much or how effective that residential baseline to all electric really is in diminishing the tax. One challenge is that we get really good data from PG&E around how many meters we have, but we don't get the identifying information. So we know that we have 17 meters, but we don't know who they are, and we don't know if those 17 residences have electrified their homes, or if they have EV, or if they have hot tubs, you know? So it's definitely just kind of tricky to really understand the benefits and drawbacks of the EEUT. And then one other thing I wanted to point out is there can be a perception that the EEUT funds the energy activity budget directly. Over time, we've had some of our energy committee members kind of like conceptualizing the EEUT in that way. And so I just wanted to point out that that's not the case. The EEUT is general fund revenue. The energy activity is general fund. However, we don't necessarily take that direct revenue and apply that to the energy activity budget. So just really wanting to highlight that because I think sometimes that misconception can occur. So with that, there have been some emerging considerations, and that's part of the purpose of bringing this item to council tonight. One is, has the EEUT achieved its intended purpose? Certainly, the number of taxed accounts have substantially reduced, again, from that high 90s number to under 20. The corresponding overall electricity use has declined. We're about 9.4% decrease from 2014 levels, and that's interesting because that would also take into effect some electrification. I think this data is current as of about 2022. The revenue has steadily decreased, again, mostly a good thing. And then there's a question, is the EEUT the most effective mechanism as residences shift toward electrification? So some options the council could consider for moving forward would be to continue with the status quo, could explore decreasing or eliminating the tax. And one thing that I've been thinking about is we could potentially reach out to some of our partners at RCEA and see if we could kind of get like kilowatt hour estimates for different energy sources to understand if that if that fully electrified home really is kicking into that 600% range or so. We can certainly bring this up with the Energy Committee and get some of their feedback. We've had committee members actually inquiring about this item specifically, and it was our original intent to bring this to their next committee meeting, so that could be timely. We'd be happy to do that. The tax could sunset in 2036, and the council could decide not to consider renewing that tax. And we could also consider developing more targeted outreach to heat pump installers to help educate homeowners about switching to that all-electric baseline allowance, particularly like as the infrastructure is going in, so that they hopefully don't have to end up paying the excessive energy use tax potentially for a number of months before reconciling that switch to the all-electric baseline. So I will pause there. Certainly happy to answer questions, take feedback, or any direction the council might want to provide to staff.
Great, thanks. We'll go ahead and Councilmember Stillman, do you have any questions?
Well, yes, when that Michael Winkler was really behind, he was on the city council at the time, and he was really behind trying to push this because we had so many houses in Arcata that had been converted into well, we called them then marijuana grows. Now we want to call them cannabis grows. And so once that tax was implemented, there were people would say, oh my gosh, you see the U-Hauls all over town just unloading the houses, and people are moving probably to McKinleyville or somewhere else to continue their operation. And so that was the reason originally it was put in place, was to deal with the energy use. I mean, because you could go, sometimes they'd be at Wildberries where they would pay their PG&E bill, and people would be paying $2,000 for their PG&E bill, and that was not uncommon, Wildberries said. So I think it met its purpose to get rid of the amount of grows that we had in Arcata, that we could then have those houses come back into being residential. That was its purpose. So I would say, I would look at it totally differently now. And if you're, as you say, that you're going to be looking at this 17 people that we are still taxing, I think you said 17, that we should find out what is actually happening with them. And I would say we probably are getting to the point where we want to maybe eliminate it even before we reach 2036. So that's my feeling, because that's what it was all about, was to really clean up the amount of marijuana grows that we had going in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Schaefer, did you have any questions or thoughts? Okay.
I just have a quick question. Since it was a ballot measure that approved it, would it have to be a ballot measure to repeal it if that was the direction that we wanted to go in?
Go for it.
So it's easier to eliminate a tax than it is to put one in place. And so we would certainly want to work with legal if that was a direction you went. And just because it's also tied to the UUT, make sure that we can eliminate it. But I think that that is an action that a city council can take, is to reduce or pause or even stop collecting a tax.
Yeah, I'd be really interested what the Energy Committee has to say about this. So I'm glad that that's going to be on their agenda. I'd love for them to report back to us.
Yeah, and just thank you for the presentation, and thank you staff for talking me through this beforehand too, because I was I think the one that requested to get this update, but I largely agree with what Alex said, and I think it would be interesting to hear from the Energy Committee, especially with some folks on that committee that do have some of that kind of historical knowledge and were kind of part of getting this passed originally. And I think it would be really helpful too, if could we get these slides shared with us as well, because I think that will help me answer some questions that I had some constituents ask specifically about this. So that would be excellent. And just thank you, Emily. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues in hearing from the Energy Committee. And even though fully electrifying might not push people into that, there is, because it is kind of a notion that's circulating out there, whether it be true or not, people might be hesitant to move towards electrification. So I do think that's something for the Energy Committee to consider, to see, it has served its purpose and could be hindering future purposes that we have. So sounds like we're all in agreement that we'd love to hear their thoughts. So thank you.
Yeah, and it'd be sure nice to get rid of a tax. So if it came to that, instead of increasing a tax.
Well, it'd be interesting because, oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but Michael Winkler is he's still on the Energy Committee. And it would be interesting to get his thoughts on that, because that was his big, big push. I was on the council with him when that happened. So I just, and then I would get these stories where people tell me what was going on in their neighborhoods and how they saw all these things leaving and they were so happy. So thank you very much for your presentation this evening.
And a lot of people too were making enough money that they didn't care they had to pay 45% tax too. I think I knew some of those folks.
Right. Did you have anything else for us?
That was great feedback, much appreciated. And I believe our next Energy Committee is actually on June 15th. So I think we'll be able to get back to the council promptly with a recommendation.
Thank you so much. That takes us to oral and written communications. The City Council values your comments. The public comment period allows people to address the council on matters that are not on the agenda. This early section of public comment is limited to 15 minutes, and speakers are limited to 2 minutes each. If you prefer to have a full 3 minutes of time for your public comment, this item is continued at the end of the meeting under item 12, where speakers are granted 3 minutes. Please know that pursuant to the Brown Act, the council cannot discuss or take action on items not listed on the agenda. The council may respond to statements. There will also be a time to provide public comments specific to each item when that item is being reviewed by the council. So please make your way to the podium now or raise your electronic hand if you are on Zoom.
Hello, everybody. My name is Carly with Brighton Green. And I just wanted to catch up on a lot of exciting things that we have going on in town. And I have some exciting news following up Emily's presentation. We just got a report back that 74%, there's 74% less carbon emission. We're reducing our carbon emissions by 74% every time we reuse a cup twice, compared to a compostable paper cup. We already know that reusables are better than throwaway plastic solo cups, but the argument against the paper compostable cups with the plastic or bioplastic lining on the inside was always a throw for us. And now we can really use that information to hopefully work more with you guys to help you guys keep on reducing carbon emissions for the city and comply with larger policies as well. So very excited about that. Also, with Oyster Fest coming up very soon, just wanted to throw it out there that we're still looking for volunteers. Oyster Fest used to be the biggest trash producing event on the plaza, and now it's the biggest composting event on the plaza. Last year, 85% of all of the waste that was created on the plaza got diverted away from landfill. There was nearly 4,000 pounds of compost and only 800 pounds of trash. Lastly, I just want to invite you guys all to the Center for Sustainable Development. It's a local hub where we have all the tools, resources, and space to solve all the community problems that we have in the community. We have the experts, we have the space, we have the tools, and we want to share it. So please contact us, and we'd like to share the space and show all the possibilities that we could help the community do, including emergency shelters. Thank you. All right.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in person? All right. Do we have any hands raised online?
Yes, we have one hand raised.
Okay, we'll take that one commenter. Thank you.
Darius, please go ahead.
Okay. Hello.
We can hear
Hello.
you.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up something that's been an ongoing situation here on F Street. You know, where like how the garbage goes out, it has to go out every Sunday night, and it's picked up early in the morning the next day on Monday morning. And sometimes there are cars parked from end to end, and nobody can put their trash out because it's all wall to wall parking. And so I would like to propose that at least on that particular night and the following morning, that parking is not allowed on the side of the road there, where, you know, so people can put their garbage out. And, you know, because I have no place to put it. There's no place to put the garbage sometimes. That's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. That brings us to our consent calendar. All matters on the consent calendar are considered to be routine by the City Council and are enacted in one motion. There is no separate discussion of any of these items. If discussion is required, that item is removed from the consent calendar and considered separately. So A, approve to waive reading of the text and consent to read by title only for any ordinance on this agenda. B, approve the minutes of the City Council's special meeting study session of May 13th, 2026. C, approve the minutes of the City Council's special meeting of May 20th, 2026. D, approve the minutes of the City Council meeting of May 20th, 2026. E, biweekly report on disbursements. F, award a contract for the 2026 digester cleaning project to Synagro WWT Incorporated in the amount of $462,885.80 and approve necessary and associated related actions. G, make a continued finding that emergency procurement to repair failed culverts at 4700 West End Road is necessary and authorize the city manager to execute all applicable documents. H, approve an amendment to the contract with Civic Possible for the Economic Strategic Plan update to add $13,000 for additional scope, not subject to the California Environmental Quality Act. I, approve the purchase of solar trail lights from Fonroche for the Arcata, Annie, and Mary Trail project in the amount of $99,544.54 and approve necessary and associated related actions. J, adopt resolution number 25667, designating the city manager, assistant city manager, or city engineer as the city's agents authorized to submit applications for federal financial assistance for any future or existing grant program. K, adopt resolution number 25671, approving a temporary hiring freeze for vacant positions to address fiscal conditions, reduce the current budget deficit, and preserve general fund reserves, and approve necessary and associated related actions. L, adopt resolution number 25658, approving a voluntary retirement health incentive program for City of Arcata employees and approve necessary and associated related actions. M, adopt resolution number 25669, approving a corrected letter of agreement between the City of Arcata and Arcata Police Association to amend the 2024-2027 Memorandum of Understanding regarding medical benefits and authorize the city manager to execute documents. Would any council member or staff like to remove any items from the consent calendar? Okay, do we have any members of the public that are would like to comment on this? We'll go ahead and do our in-person folks first.
Hi, my name's Joanne McGarry. And per usual, when I see a huge dollar amount on a consent calendar item, I am concerned. And I did not study this agenda and its packet before the meeting. But item F, award a contract for digester cleaning project in the amount of over $460,000. I just would love a little bit of an explanation about that and where the money's coming from. Is it part of a sewage treatment plant thing? And if so, it would be nice to have a little more clarification. So if somebody could do that for me, thank you.
And do we have any commenters online?
No, we do not.
Okay, are there any questions from council members or a motion?
Tabitha, do you mind, just for curiosity's sake, talking a little bit about item F and what that money's going towards? Or whomever thinks. You probably know.
Great. So, hi, council members. The digester project is a maintenance project. What that was originally planned to be included in some of the topics we'll be talking about at the next, one of the next items around the wastewater treatment plant and next steps. The digester is an anaerobic digester, handles solids. We utilize sludge developed from the digester in our composting program at the treatment facility. But over time, there's more solids build up and we need assistance for maintenance. This is a regular kind of periodic occurrence. The last digester cleaning was, I believe, in 2014. And we've kind of gotten to the stretch where we needed to do that through a maintenance project. This was a project that was planned for well in advance, budgeted in this current fiscal year, and we're looking forward to implementing it. And that's been a collaboration between our wastewater staff and our engineering department to get that bid out.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I will move to accept, to approve the consent calendar.
Can I just add, is that?
Can I second? I'm going to second.
Second. Thank you for a motion and a second. I wanted to ask a question on so that means that when they clean out the digester, it'll be going into the sludge bed? Is that what happens then?
The staff have been doing some preparation to lower some of the amount of sludge in the digester. So we have done a recent sludge pour, but a lot of we're going to be working with the contractor to see if just capacity wise, if the sludge that is removed, it will definitely be belt pressed and water drained out of it. Whether we will kind of compost all as we do, or send a portion of hauling away.
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt your motion on the floor, but I just wanted to clarify that because we do have the sludge beds and it's part of what happens to them. So thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, so we'll go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Right, motion passes unanimously. So we're moving into old business, and we will be holding a hearing to consider abatement for the properties located at 4600 West End Road, Arcata, California, 95521. Assessor's parcel number 507081055, and terminate abatement proceedings due to the property owner having successfully abated the nuisance. So we are now opening the hearing, and we'll go ahead and receive testimony from staff.
Great. So at your last meeting on May 20th, this hearing, you continued the hearing. And fortunately, on May 29th, city staff were able to confirm that the repair on the backflow device at 4600 West End Road has passed all tests and is no longer in need of abatement. And so our recommendation is to take any public comment today and to close the hearing and terminate the abatement process.
All right, thank you. And this is also time for the property owner to provide testimony. I don't see him here. Does he happen to be online?
No, he does not.
Okay, sounds good. So we will go ahead and open this up for public comment.
Hi, my name's Joanne McGarry, and I followed this at previous meetings while I was in attendance here. And I just want to say I totally appreciate how this has been handled by both parties with compassion, understanding, and appreciating certain timeline situations and part delivery and things like that. I just think this is an example of a beautiful way that we can go about dealing with these types of important matters, but in a manner that's very accommodating as it needs to be. So I just want to thank everyone involved in that for this type of procedure. And I'm glad things got fixed finally. So, and we don't have to abate. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone online?
No, we do not.
Okay, are there any comments or questions from council members? Otherwise, we can entertain a motion.
Yeah, I will move to the terminate abatement proceedings due to property owner having successfully abated the nuisance. And I too am really glad that this ended uncontentiously.
Great. I will second that.
I am too. I watched it on TV or my phone, whatever, and I'm glad that it all came about and he was able to get the equipment that he needed in order to finally complete the job. So thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion to close the hearing and terminate the abatement. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Right, that's unanimous. Next item. Yeah, thank you. So we're going to receive a presentation on the final Arcata wastewater treatment facility feasibility study and potential future projects at the Arcata wastewater treatment facility and provide direction to staff on a preferred alternative. And so I think we have Director Sinkhorn again. Thanks.
Great, thank you. So I'm here today to talk about the feasibility study that was looking at potential next steps at the wastewater treatment facility following the exciting completion of our phase 1 project, and really with the purpose to plan for adaptation of the treatment facility and all it does so we can flush with pride in Arcata beyond the design life of phase 1. So, but we also want to keep that, this presentation will talk about the feasibility study, but also talk about concurrent efforts that have been occurring, over the 3 years of the feasibility study. So as part of the coastal development permit process for the phase 1 project, coastal staff had requested that we just proceed with a portion of what we overall had originally applied to construct and take move forward with phase 1 while at the same time investing more time to evaluate a range of strategies that could adapt the treatment facility beyond what we said is the design life of 30 years of the phase 1 improvements. So we had a project update before your council in January. The feasibility study was completed in March. And the intention was really to work with our key regulatory agencies, stakeholders, members of the public to really inform the city on really what could be our options for moving forward. And also to keep in mind of those other concurrent efforts that we've had moving forward, there has been a lot of effort around adaptation planning within our local coastal program, which your council recently adopted. as kind of some outcomes and concurrent efforts. We were recently awarded a grant from the Ocean Protection Council to develop an adaptation pathways plan that will also be looking at the treatment facility and also tie in with some of the measures in the LCP. The city received a grant for levee augmentation around the core area of the treatment facility many years before the feasibility study started. So we've still been moving that forward in the concept phase. And then we also need to be planning for additional wastewater treatment upgrades to ensure that we can remain in compliance with upcoming water quality standards with the regional board. And this has been our previously envisioned phase 2. But first, let us not forget to celebrate the accomplishment of completing the largest capital improvement project the city has ever undertaken. We are looking forward to having the public, our funders, everyone out to the treatment plant on next Wednesday, 4 o'clock on June 10th, and you can take tours and see some of these improvements in action. And it's very exciting to have shifted to a much more environmentally and human health benefiting disinfection system from chlorine gas to UV. We have a new outfall at the brackish marsh, and we're already meeting better and current water quality standards. So it's an exciting time. We're looking forward to seeing folks out there next week. So a key benefit of the feasibility study has been intimate involvement throughout the project and as part of the project team with key regulatory agencies, our regional board partner, coastal staff, as well as our funder through the State Water Board. And then RCAC was the third party that really led the work, and their contractor was GHD. We did a lot of outreach and were required to consider some consolidation opportunities between wastewater facilities. So we had a lot of outreach with other area districts. And then we had 2 public meetings, opportunities at Cal Poly, and then we were here in January. So where the feasibility study was really focused on helping the city plan to look at alternatives such that we could be having a plan for after and being ready for about 2055 for when the current design life of phase 1 improvements are. So just to have on the timeline, but the feasibility study was looking out towards about 2100. So just of keeping in the timelines that were that the study was looking at. So the study looked at a range of adaptation strategies, protection to protect in place, eco levees, gray infrastructure, opportunities to accommodate. Those were some of the strategies we used a lot in phase 1 of elevating the foundations for a number of our key facilities, and then also retreat and relocating to an area that is further away from the shoreline and above key anticipated water surface elevations with sea level rise. So we looked at a range of adaptation strategies for both where the treatment facility itself would be located or how best to adapt it, and also the disposal system. So for the treatment system itself, the study really looked at levee augmentation. We'll talk more about that, but the summary of being elevating to about 15 feet, and that being around the core area of the treatment plant and the oxidation ponds. And then we also looked at the feasibility level of relocating the whole facility to a new location. And at the concept level, looked at what areas we would have enough acreage to make a treatment facility viable. So again, we'll talk more about this in a bit, but the goal would for this adaptation strategy was elevating to 15 feet. That in effect means adding 3 to 5 feet of levee augmentation to what people are already familiar with walking the oxidation ponds. This is a concept level of the parcels and areas that could, at a bigger picture level, work for shifting the treatment plant to the north and outside of anticipated sea level rise inundation zones. And again, this is at a large scale level. If there was interest of moving forward, there would be a lot more detail of discussion. You know, this is not at the scale of talking with landowners. This is looking at it at a broad scale. Some of the other options that we looked at, but were not further evaluated in the larger, more complete analysis, was we did have extensive discussions with regulatory agencies and also with McKinleyville, CSD, and the city of Eureka about if there are opportunities for ways to collaborate for infrastructure. There just did not emerge really any synergies there. And we can go into that in more detail if you'd like, but that did not come out as a really viable or feasible option. And then there was a lot of interest in decentralized wastewater treatment, but just in terms of our population levels and future, population levels, there really was not yet a standalone decentralized solution that was identified that could meet our whole city needs as a whole, but that there would be opportunities at a smaller scale. And there's interest from Cal Poly classes in studying this more of small water recycling systems, more gray water, composting toilets that could be a part of reducing the inflow to our main treatment facility. So then discharge options. So currently we discharge to Humboldt Bay because we have an exception to the enclosed bays and estuaries policy. And that is because of all of the hard work done in the late 70s to show that wastewater that then flows through enhancement marshes really enhances the water quality of Humboldt Bay when the effluent goes out to Humboldt Bay. So having the enhancement marshes and the wastewater being involved going through the enhancement marshes is really how we're able to discharge to Humboldt Bay. So these two options of continuing to utilize the enhancement marshes and adapt as we see sea level rise having an impact, or augmenting the levees around the existing marshes, those were two options that would retain using the marshes in order to discharge to Humboldt Bay. So the photo or the map on the right is kind of color coding, detailing generally where levee elevations are around the enhancement marshes and Brackish Pond, which is where we have the new outfall 003. And so areas in yellow are kind of under or at 10 feet and are susceptible to king tides. So on January 3rd, when we had our mega king tide, this was an area that, based on elevations and our sea level rise risk analysis, we know is a weaker point. And so this is at the northwest corner of Hauser Marsh. And so for a period of time, seawater went into Hauser Marsh. So one of the options we're looking at of working with the Arcata Marsh Research Institute as we go forward in the next couple of years is looking at how can we adaptively manage the enhancement marshes, how much sea level or how much salt water can they take and still function. This was a short period of time, but as sea level rise enhances, this is something that we will see more frequently. This is just again of reiterating one of our alternatives or options could be to augment the existing levees versus just get up to 10 feet and adaptively manage. So some other options is if over time the enhancement marshes are inundated, or if there's we're retreating the treatment plant core area itself. These are two retreat options. One being developing a new enhancement project that would still qualify us to discharge to Humboldt Bay. I'll talk about that more in a second. And then also to retreat to consolidate and utilize the Harbor District's existing Redwood Marine Terminal 2 ocean outfall that goes about 1.25 miles out to the ocean from the Samoa Peninsula. So a bit more detail on those. A new enhancement project could be building new marshes that we all in Arcata know and love, but just further uphill, so further north at a higher elevation. Or recently this year, the city of Eureka was approved updated guidelines for what counts as a enhancement project for just for Eureka in order to meet the requirements in the enclosed bays and estuaries policy. And so a future project may not be required to involve wastewater, like wastewater goes through the enhancement marshes now, but it could be I think I have it, nope, I don't have a slide. But this could be addressing legacy contamination around the bay, of building and constructing new wetlands for ecological purposes. There may be in the future for Arcata, like there was recently adopted for Eureka, some more broad guidelines for potential enhancement project. And then the retreat option of consolidating with the Harbor District for an ocean outfall would involve a large infrastructure project to, to install a new discharge pipeline that, the feasibility study team looked at different options, and the one that was the least environmentally damaging or costly would be to generally follow Highway 255 down south of Samoa and connect to the existing outfall. As part of the Coastal Commission's requirement for the city to conduct this feasibility study, they asked that the city look at consolidation and retreat options. So that's why we really spent quite a bit of time at the feasibility level, looking at what these options could provide to the city. So then these were some other disposal adaptation strategies that were considered, but for various reasons, mostly that we have a lot of water here on the North Coast, that year-round surface water disposal or groundwater injection are not feasible. So as shown in the feasibility study itself, I went through options, and these 8 alternatives combine those options for adaptation options for the treatment plant and adaptation options for disposal. And so during this time of both developing these 8 alternatives and in getting feedback on key criteria that we would analyze these alternatives through and with, we had held two community meetings, and some of the key takeaways were the hope that the city is really looking at a cost effectiveness, not only just for the city's funds and coffers, but for ratepayers, for also that the Arcata Marsh is very much loved, and to really ensure the ecological and recreation benefits of the marsh or any future enhancement project. Just that it may take a long time to retreat, and considering land banking for a future retreat. A key emphasis on there is, concern on sea level rise, and wanting to ensure that the options for the treatment plant are really in line with the city's overall adaptation strategy, being a key thing. So these were key criteria that all the alternatives were analyzed against. Many of them are non-negotiable. We want a cost-efficient. We really want to ensure resource efficiency, minimal environmental impact, and then we got input from the community on some of these more flexible criteria and key things to include in the analysis. One, just to go back for a second, for each of these criteria, there's the feasibility study itself elaborates on the analysis, and some key things that occurred were a preliminary environmental analysis and memo. And another key one was looking at life cycle costs for each of these alternatives. And I just wanted to show a snapshot of an estimation of the capital cost to fully implement each of these alternatives, again, of planning for that this would be funds spent to enable the city to plan for what comes next after 2055. So this is not a table of what we would be looking to budget next year. This is, of looking at what it would cost to adapt. So I just wanted to give a snapshot for then when we, talk about, when we keep talking here. And we can come back to the slide if there's more questions. So from all of those criteria, the project team really outlined what we saw as preferred alternatives that are a range of options to give the community, the council, a thorough look at of what we could move forward with. So I think I wanted to stop there and for a second and pause and see if there was any questions so far on the feasibility study and getting to some of these preferred alternatives.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for providing guidance on preferred alternatives. That's quite helpful. I was hoping that was coming. Do we have any questions or clarification, or should she keep going?
I just think, here I am, I'm thinking back. You mentioned Flush with Pride. You started off that way. And I always think about the plastic toilet that we had that looked like a real toilet, which disappeared somewhere. But that was one of the whole things about Flushing with Pride. And we had it everywhere. It was in City Hall out there in the foyer at one time, and it always had a goldfish in it. So and it disappeared somewhere, which is unfortunate, but nevertheless, no one knows where.
Yep.
So one of the things I'm thinking about is when this is just coming from a long time ago. So I'm just thinking about the fact that you're now thinking about discharge in a new location. And that is what started the whole Marsh project, is sending all our sewage over to Eureka and then having it discharged into the ocean. And that's why we came about this way. So I'm just thinking in those terms that I know we've changed, we have to adapt, we have to grow up around all these things and think differently. But it seems like it's a lot to do.
Yep. Yeah, and on this slide, I would, what I didn't say was that the feasibility study analysis got to this point. So there is a full analysis of all the alternatives, and when we developed the scope of work 3 years ago, our goal was for the third party analysis to get us to this point, and then to have time and with you as the council to take in this analysis and then be able to provide direction. And we'll talk about why that getting direction soon will be very beneficial in several ways. And so I have more to go. I just wanted to make sure anything was not clear, if anything was not clear yet.
No, I mean, it's as clear as it can be with this massive amount of information, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping that maybe there'll be some words that you have that will make our decision between one being the least expensive, which seems, like an easy one, and then 7 and 8 being the most expensive, I think, and how we would pick. So hopefully there's more to come for that.
Great. So just of a reminder of, I showed this slide earlier, but I just want to speak to now more in-depthly about each of these concurrent efforts happening within the city and that involve the wastewater treatment facility. So I mentioned the upcoming sea level rise adaptation pathways plan. That grant was recently funded, and that will really implement one of the measures in the recently adopted local coastal program. A key component of that is the wastewater treatment facility, and the South G, South H areas are in adaptation zone 1, which the city really identified that based on our understanding of sea level rise progression and of looking at the cost benefit analysis, that there still remains a lot of benefit to protect the current development in this zone 1 and of supporting potential redevelopment while we continue to monitor and plan for a measured retreat when it's no longer feasible to defend or adapt. And so that has been the strategy that the council recently adopted with the LCP. We have other grants in the works to continue to support this adaptation strategy. A little bit more around the levee augmentation project, and the purpose is to ensure protection to a 100-year flood event. Many of us have been out there on the oxidation pond trails. We are planning to have that continuity of retaining the existing trails. The levee project is in a concept design phase. All the additional environmental review has been developed, and it's currently in review with Cal OES and FEMA, which takes quite a long time. We anticipate their review by the end of the year or early 2027 to be able to proceed to next steps if that is the direction given. The feasibility study demonstrated, along with that utilized information from the sea level rise vulnerability and risk assessment that was completed in 24-25, that this project would have protection from sea level rise until after 2100. And really, if direction is provided to proceed, we really could see construction as early as 2028 or 2029. So a key component that we have wanting to mention to keep in mind for decisions on the feasibility study is that the city originally planned to complete phase 1, phase 2, which I'll talk more about the components, and the levee augmentation project as one large permitted project. With the consultation with coastal staff, we were required or agreed to remove those other two components from the phase 1 coastal development permit that enabled us to do all the great improvements we have so far. A harder time piece is that we have a permit to operate the treatment facility with the regional board, and we have a time schedule order or a TSO that says by these timelines we must complete additional improvements. And the purpose of that is so that we can meet stricter water quality standards, mostly around ammonia. And the delay from the feasibility study has now put us where it's going to be very difficult to meet those timelines. So a key thing I want to emphasize is that phase 2 needs to proceed regardless of which adaptation alternative is selected. And we have been planning for that for years. We're just delayed. A key component of phase 2 would be the construction of a new oxidation ditch that would augment our current oxidation ponds and the current natural processing treatment that occurs in wetlands to help us better meet that ammonia standard with the regional board. And if you can somewhat see on the slide, there's an outline of a future oxidation ditch oblong towards the top. That would take up quite a bit more of space at the corporation yard. And we are also therefore know that we need to transition more of our courtyard functions to another location at the same time that we're planning to construct some of these phase 2 improvements. So one aspect of at the mid-year budget, the council adopted adding in a citywide facilities assessment. We are anticipating starting that work in 2026-27, and that would look at not only our existing facilities and just planning for what our needs are going forward, but it would also help us plan for what space do we need in order to continue our upgrades at the treatment facility in order to be the the best city of delivery of services that we can. So that is another aspect that the city is moving forward with. So I touched on this a bit about the timelines that the feasibility study has got us to today. The real extreme benefit is that we've had a very thorough analysis of opportunities to adapt the wastewater treatment facility. Our key regulatory and funding agencies were really intimately involved in the process, attending monthly meetings. And that this was, the city staff did not lead this effort. City staff was part of the project team. But that third party analysis, I think, goes a long way. The downside has been it has taken quite a while, and that has delayed the city in meeting that time schedule order timelines. The good thing is regional board staff that oversee that permit and that time schedule order have been intimately involved monthly. They know what we've been doing. They know that we're working towards a resolution. But there are some statutory limits that do not allow them to extend timelines a bit past. And so that could be something that comes back to the city. There could be fines. We're meeting with regional board staff next week, and we scheduled that as an outcome from after this meeting. And again, the time has likely cost the city some funds with cost escalations in the last 3 years, and of just access to grants and low interest loans that we were very fortunate to receive to implement the phase 1 project. So I think I've touched on timelines. I don't think we need to go on that again. But just for next steps, our staff are really hoping to receive council direction on a preferred alternative that could really help us inform the next steps of how we pursue design or environmental review. And we're really hoping to act soon. To proactively adapt and also, address some of these key compliance timelines. So, after careful consideration of the analyses in the feasibility study, staff recommend proceeding with alternative 1, augmenting the levee around the core area of the treatment facility, and continue to adaptively manage the enhancement marshes. This is the alternative that was outlined as the least environmentally impactful. And a key component of that is, the amount of space for new construction. The levee project is planning all construction that would not be a living shoreline component, all of that construction occurring kind of in and not like out towards the bay part of the levee. And also of alternative 1 being likely the most cost effective for Arcata residents and ratepayers. If we, again, with staff recommendation for proceeding with alternative 1, that would also come with, we would suggest moving forward on the grant-funded work with the levee augmentation. We would anticipate getting the review from Cal OES and FEMA by the end of the year. And, so starting that next level of design in this coming fiscal year. And then also of moving forward on design of the key components that we are required by the regional board to complete on phase 2 in our existing facility. So while we at the staff level recommend proceeding with alternative 1, we also recommend continuing to monitor and plan for an eventual measured retreat from our current location that is in alignment with the policy direction you provided with the adopted LCP, and that we are doing that work now, but seeing that retreat timeline at a later date than departing by 2055. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and thank you for I know it's a lot.
So I remember a discussion on an oxidation ditch, so we didn't put one in the last phase when we were doing the this thing. And so the oxidation ditch is something that's still required?
Currently in our NPDS permit to operate the treatment facility, those phase 2 improvements, as we submitted, they were at a 30-50% design level. Yes, we are required to install additional treatment to help meet the ammonia standards that as soon as we complete those, we will get stricter standards to meet.
Where is our ammonia coming from?
So that is a natural part of the treatment process. It just and we have had less ammonia dings. I'm not using the right word. Less ammonia fees violations. Thank you. I couldn't get the right word. Since during the phase 1, we installed a number of new aerators in the oxidation ponds. And so that is helpful to get more oxygen in those ponds to help the algae keep doing what they're doing and help the natural processes keep doing what they're doing. There are just stricter standards that nearly every year that, and which is a good thing. That is why we can flush with pride. That is, many things, but it is requiring some more mechanized treatment. And so the phase 2 seemed to be a balancing, retaining the natural treatment systems and augmenting that treatment train with some more mechanized treatment process.
So an oxidation ditch is really big. It's very, very tall. So if you had a small car parked by it, it would look like you had a toy car next to it because the size of the oxidation ditch. It's pretty amazing. Anyway, I guess this is just life, but it seems so. Here we have this plant and we've done all these things over, and we were known all over the world as being so advanced and blah, blah, blah. And now we're going to become normal. More or less normal.
We will, a key part of the design was to retain the treatment wetlands, which you can see right in the middle of the picture, and retain the enhancement marshes. And those are components that really of not every treatment facility has. It takes up a lot of acreage, but we all know it provides a many ecological, recreation, economic benefits to the city.
So I wanted to ask you one other question. You were showing us the new wetland possibility. Where were you thinking that would happen? Or the new pond or whatever?
Thank you. So really anywhere to the north, really the north of 255 you
Oh,
know,
that
there's
far
not
north,
a
okay.
location that is identified at the, you know, at the moment, but based on anticipated sea level rise, water surface elevations at, you know, that, you know, 50, 75, 100 years from now, it would be in a location that is north of our current marshes.
So besides having to do all these upgrades, we're really going to have to look at acquiring more property. And that's going to have to be put into the whole thing if we're going to be north of wherever 255 or wherever it might be. Or just that's going to be another thing we're going to have to really deal with.
Yes, and I would
Acquisition.
and I would clarify that the, you know, staff recommendation for alternative 1 would not immediately require property acquisition. The adaptive management of the enhancement marshes is that component where I could see if by 2075 or, you know, 2060, the enhancement marshes are not, you know, they're not being as effective, efficient at the additional polishing of wastewater, that we would be planning for that. And like City of Eureka did, propose some additional enhancement projects such that we could continue to have the marshes while also having some other enhancement projects around the bay, other restoration, which the city, you know, loves to, you know, look towards funding to do in order to still discharge to the bay. But I would also say that I think it is beneficial as part of the citywide facilities assessment that we're planning to be looking at. We know we need to relocate some of the key functions at the city's current corporation yard. We know that that will be part of that facilities assessment. And so, you know, to your point, Councilmember Stillman, that is what, even if you know, we go with the staff recommendation, we need to be looking at some other land property facility acquisitions.
Yeah, and on the topic of money, I guess is what stood out to me is, you know, we get a lot of people in these chambers, or at least a few that, you know, are very upset we're even investing in this plant right now, and that we should already be thinking about retreat. But when we look at, you know, the options and how they're laid out, when we can already be, you know, accessing grant funding that we've already even been approved for some of these projects that we're already starting now, and kind of the optimism towards that, and the other options cost, you know, 150 to almost 200 million more. It just doesn't seem realistically feasible. And maybe, you know, we'll be down to 2070, and then we're gonna be planning, and maybe I'll be back on the council like Alex is now when she was in the 70s, to plan for the next, you know, where are we gonna move it phase. But I think, you know, the both financially smart move, and just with the direction we've been going, that it's pretty obvious to me. Even before you gave us that, I wrote 1 and then I circled it. So, you know, I think that we already have to do these phase 2, you know, projects as well. And so to think about, you know, planning for option 7 or 8, you know, is a long-term planning. But for this short midterm, we really need to, you know, be focusing on, adapting those levees and making sure that we can, you know, use that infrastructure and make it, you know, protected for as long as possible right now, especially, you know, with those king tide events. We're already going to start seeing, it might not be all the time, it might not be permanent sea level rise, but we're going to see events that cause, you know, water to be mixing and make us have these violations, et cetera, more often too. So, that's definitely where I stand. And I think, you know, this was a lot of information to absorb, but I think, you know, kind of naturally also getting to that alternative and really seeing it as, you know, what's going to work for us in the now. So.
Yeah, I agree with Councilmember Schaefer. I think that was a really exhaustive explanation, and I really appreciate it. But I think that, you know, with all of that information, this definitely seems like the most realistic recommendation, you know, while things that we can do now and also being forward thinking. And so, it's a lot.
I would say forward planning. That's what it really is.
Not just think about it. We got, now we got a plan.
So alternative one, so the alternatives that we talked about came from a third party, but wasn't alternative one the direction that we were already heading before the feasibility study?
That is definitely why it was one of the alternatives. And the range of alternatives was, and it was a lot longer. The alternative list was, longer earlier in the process, but it was really to look at that balance between protection and retreat. And that was part of the intention and the special condition in our phase 1 CDP was to look at those range of alternatives. And so that's also why it was included.
Well, maybe I'm seeing it wrong, and I think you've done a great job of pointing out all the great things that it did. But my recollection from several years ago was that we were going to augment the levies and also be planning for far in the future for relocation or other alternatives, and we were wanting to go forward with that, and we had grant money to do that, and then this became a mandatory thing for us. And so it just feels, maybe I shouldn't be frustrated, but it feels a little frustrating that we had the money and we were already heading in this direction. And yes, we have some great plans, but it's just, I know it's a lot more detailed, but it just seems like a missed opportunity that we had. But maybe I'm missing something.
No, it certainly has. I mean, as I said, the third party analysis had a lot of benefits. And especially just the involvement of all of the regulatory agencies, but it really has put us many years behind. And a key and again, we all of the phase 2 and the levy project were on hold also because we were not able to submit another coastal development permit until the completion of this study. So that is just another component of why they were on hold. We really wanted to see the outcomes, but also, anxious to have the analysis and be able to act and move forward.
Great. Thank you. I just kind of wanted to make it clear that that staff was heading in the right direction because, if we're having trouble meeting those timelines and if there are fines, that was just a bit out of your control. So that was all. Should we go ahead and take public comment? All right. Are there anyone who would like to come up?
Hi, my name is Joanne McGarry, and again, I've watched this and listened and tried to figure out where we're going and what's the best way to go. Excuse me. I think, immediate future monies, realities of our community. It makes sense where you're leading in terms of augmentation with levies. Yet I do think, and I sort of remember when Dave Couch stood here on his retirement, and I think he'd worked 30 years at the treatment facility. And I approached him afterwards about my thoughts of alternative ways of treating our sewage. And he and I talked about this eco machine out of the Omega Institute, and there was some slide there that talked about small scale projects that I think really should be looked at, especially on rebuilds of like the fire site downtown, experimenting with alternatives to sending everything down to our sea level rising sewage treatment plant area. So I do think that it makes sense to continue on this path. And again, the delay is kind of interesting, but I always think that we really need to big picture. I mean, the 101 corridor, Caltrans is looking right now because of sea level rise and all the infrastructure along that corridor, of which the marsh is a part. What do they do in the whole scheme of things to plan for the future for that? So I just want to say that I wish we had really thought about retreat options a whole lot earlier. It really, some stuff can stay going to the marsh and some stuff can go to another place. And we have little experimental places that other things could be tried. But it's still hard for me to wrap up my head around. But the money right now looks like alternative one is the way to go. Anyway, I just thank everybody for all their expertise and time commitment to it all. And I hope I'm alive long enough to see something fruitful come from all of this. Then maybe the sea level won't rise so much. And what does artificial intelligence say the choice should be?
We would never ask. All right. Next commenter, please.
I just want to say, hello, my name is Carly Tambling. As a community member, when I first moved up to Humboldt, wastewater treatment was not something that I thought I would be super excited about. But since moving here and since learning about the marsh and Alex Stillman, everything that you did to help make that happen, and that we've inspired that we were able to be a success with how we treat our wastewater here, and we inspired so many other places around the world to do the same. I think that another thing that I've learned since being in this community is appropriate technology from the CCAT house is where I really learned that too. And I love that we did that. And I like that we're learning that maybe we need to do something different now too. And I hope that we can continue to be leaders in our wastewater treatment facilities and the way that we do that and we learn. And I definitely support your decision to the best decision, obviously, but having attended some of these wastewater treatment planning sessions that have been so generously open to the public, and I felt really involved in this process in the last 3 years. Again, I think I appreciate that you guys realize how much time that took, and that maybe that wasn't the best, but I also have to say I did appreciate being a part of that process, and I feel super educated about it, and all the more proud for what the work that you guys are doing, and for where we're from, and how we deal with wastewater, and so just thank you for all that, and I will continue to maintain our grease traps and keep our water as clean as possible. And thank you again for all this work.
I think we are probably a unique community in how much we talk about and know about our wastewater facilities. That's probably not the norm. And yes, I agree that community involvement is never a bad thing. So that was a good side effect of that. Seeing no one else in person, do we have anyone online?
No, we do not.
Okay.
May I ask another question about this? So we were talking about you're going to be doing enhancement. Will that be down around the marsh again? A number of years ago, I don't know, was it 10 years ago that we had the everything built up, including the ponds? Well, let me see. When you walk around the marsh and when you walk around from I-Street parking lot and you come around, so will those all be enhanced and built up higher? And will we also be working with the Clop Lake?
So the suggestion right now with alternative one is to focus on the core area of the treatment plant, not where you're saying, but to add 3 to 5 feet around the core area of the treatment plant. Around the enhancement marshes, our suggestion is to adaptively manage those, and as part of it could be part of a phase 2, it could be a future project of looking at raising elevations to at least 10 feet. There's certain and there's certain spots more of like repair level. This could also be looked at in the future by the council, by future councils. This is not a proposal to fully armor South High Street.
Thank you.
I think that could be a decision in the future, but we have a number of years for the enhancement marshes to continue to function as we observe that and adaptively manage and then make future decisions.
Okay, so it seems like we're all on the same page. Is there anyone that would like to motion for staff to proceed with alternative 1?
So moved.
You can second it because it's really hard for me to do that.
Second?
Oh, well, it's just, I still think about what we did in the past, how the fight we had, and we're able to make a big difference. And now it's slowly but surely, we're going to have the enhancement marshes, we're going to have so forth and so on. But the whole impetus is changed. So that's why I don't want to second it.
But also, thank you so much, Alex, for your vision years and years ago.
Oh, it was a fight, I can tell you that. But we did make it, and we are different than a lot of other places. But Redwood City was one that also had the ponds at that time, and we were sort of coming off of that too.
Yeah, I can appreciate how this must feel for you, but.
So I'll vote aye if someone calls for the question.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We still have 3 more action items, so I'm going to suggest we take a 5-minute break, and then we'll finish up. Thanks.
Check, check, check.
All right, welcome back. We're now jumping into new business. So we will be appointing one member to the Energy Committee for a term expiring on either September 30th, 2027 or September 30th, 2028. We'll be appointing one new member to the Forest Management Committee for a term expiring March 31st, 2029, and appointing up to two members to the Wetlands and Creeks Committee for terms expiring March 31st, 2028 and March 31st, 2029. So earlier this evening, we interviewed candidates for these positions, and we had a lot of wonderful candidates. So there are some difficult decisions to make. And I think that what we'll do is we'll take public comment, and then we will just take them one at a time. So
Oh, I
as
was
not-
going to do all of them at once, but
I think I want to, with so many dates and people and committees, it'll just be simpler if we just, we're just going to do it one at a time I think it'll be quicker, and then I think our clerk will appreciate that. So let's go ahead and jump into public comment if we have any. None in person. Do we have any online?
No, we do not.
Okay, so the first motion we're looking for is to appoint one member to the Energy Committee with a term ending in either September 30th, 2027 or 2028.
well, I would so move for Alex Fukuchi. I don't know exactly how you pronounce the name, but I think maybe I've been thinking about it. To a term that September 30th, 2028. He indicated he would like to have that term.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next, this is to appoint one member to the Forest Management Committee with a term ending March 31st, 2029.
So I'd like to make a motion to appoint a Hugh Scallon for March 31st, 2029. But you
I
can
see
all
hesitation, so I'm going to say either a second or an alternative motion.
Yeah, so this was an interesting one because this was our competitive one, and I think we had three really highly qualified candidates. Obviously, I think any of them would be good. But I was a little more particularly impressed with Eamon Engber. There we go, Engber. Just, in the sense that I think that he had a little bit more of a unique skill set that we don't already have on that committee. And I think that he has a pretty interesting network due to his current employment as well. And so I would make a motion to appoint Eamon Engber. I want to say Berger.
Second.
One thing that I will appreciate about all three of these is as they were coming in, they say, I'm really honored to be interviewed, but any one of us, we were talking outside, any one of us would be amazing. Like, we'd be honored to be appointed, but if you choose the other guy, they're going to be great too. So you
They
seconded?
all said that.
All right.
And I think that was very magnanimous.
Can I
of them
just
all.
clarify one small thing before we move forward? That was for a term ending March 31st, 2029.
Yes, that is the
Yes.
term we have available. Thank you for clarifying
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Did Alex second?
She did. So we're on that. We're on the second motion with a motion and a second. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. So then
Councilmember Stillman, I didn't hear your vote.
I said aye.
Okay, sorry.
I'll get closer to the phone, to the whatever.
Good save, Councilmember Schaefer. All right, appoint up to two members to the Wetlands and Creek Committee with one term ending March 31st, 2028, and the other on March 31st, 2029.
Great. And only one of our candidates for that showed up, so I think we will be only making one appointment tonight. So I'd like to make a motion to appoint Julie Weeder to a term ending March 31st, 2029 for the Wetlands and Creeks Committee.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Well, welcome to our new committee members, and thank you for the interest. We are so fortunate in this community to have people just who volunteer everywhere. So thank you. Item B in new business is to hold a public hearing to review the City of Arcata 2025 updated urban water management plan and water shortage contingency plan. And I believe we have Director Sinkhorn again.
Great. Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. So the state has many requirements for compliance around, for many topics around water, ensuring that we have a safe and reliable water system, and a requirement of water suppliers over 3,000 customers is to every 5 years develop an urban water management plan and now an associated water shortage contingency plan. So the purpose of an urban water management plan is to document existing water supplies, future water supplies, current demands and future demands, and conservation efforts. It is a long-range plan intended to ensure water reliability into the future. It's updated every 5 years. The council last adopted the plan in 2021. Fortunately, on the North Coast, we are very fortunate to have a very reliable water supply. The city is a municipal customer of the Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District. Ruth Lake, the upper Mad River, is right now, as of yesterday, it was at 98% of capacity. Even in drought years in 2014, 2015, Ruth Lake filled to capacity. We are very fortunate, and that's a key component that that we will see in the long range plan. The water is pulled through rainy wells from groundwater under the Mad River, about where the Annie and Mary Trail will terminate for the city's project. It's fun to make that connection now. Another capital project that is under construction. In 2025, the city utilized half of its water right to over 1 million gallons of water annually. The water district has worked a lot to retain water rights in many of different kinds of water uses for the region, but the city has an allocated water right that is always looked at and adopted by the water district. And again, we are at 50%, utilizing 50%. We also have an emergency water source that is a groundwater well. Our intention is to just utilize that in times of emergencies. If there is a catastrophic mainline break, it has been offline for a number of years. And this year, well, next fiscal year, we have capital improvement project to do the final pump and electrical upgrades. That would have the capacity to withdraw up to 500,000 gallons of water per day. So just briefly, some of the key components in the urban water management plan. Each supplier has to demonstrate compliance with a target water use. It is great to say that in 2025, Arcata, in the service area, Arcata used on average 77 gallons per capita per day, and that is well below our 2020 target of 113 gallons per capita per day. So this is a much lower water use than the state average. We can continue water conservation efforts, but that is a great metric. This plan also updates water demand, and we really utilize the population estimates from the recently adopted general plan. And then I just wanted to note that through its suite of capital improvement projects, we're focusing a lot on the effort to reduce water loss and to ensure that our water meters are working correctly, that we are completing our phase 1 steel water line replacement project that I know the construction's probably impacted many people in the neighborhood, and it's making great strides for our infrastructure, but planning a next water line replacement project. So there's a lot the city will continue to do there. And then just a note that Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District helped prepare the water shortage contingency plan that is a component within this plan. And I think that is just a quick summary. I do want to note that Scott Sennett in Environmental Services was a key preparer of the Urban Water Management Plan, and Rachel Hernandez as well. And so the state has a requirement to hold a public hearing to take any input on the plan. And so that is what this agenda item is for, is to take public comment, provide any direction to staff to modify the plan. And then our next item is to take action on adopting if the council so moves.
Thank you. And as Director Sinkhorn pointed out, this is a public hearing. So with that, we will officially open the public hearing and go ahead and open it for public comment.
Hi, my name's Joanne McGarry, and water is life, and I really do appreciate knowing that every 5 years we're looking at how we're doing and what we're using and how we're mitigating issues. And I moved here 14 years ago from Santa Barbara, and they have huge water issues. And I guess what I really want to emphasize here in Humboldt County and in Arcata is don't be complacent about water, and that contingency or the Hinden thing that's having capital improvements done. I just sort of recall when the generator hadn't been looked at or used over at the community center in a while because we hadn't needed to. And then, of course, we had that power outage in October of 2023 or whenever it was. And, you know, they couldn't get the generator started. So I do hope that Hinden contingency water is being looked at and analyzed on a regular basis so that we're making sure that it's not, you know, seeping out or we're not able to pump it out or, you know, all those sorts of things. And I'm, you know, I'm sure that you are doing that, but I just kind of sometimes want to say it out loud because when things seem abundant in terms of our resources in Humboldt County and in Arcata, then sometimes they're not. So we just need to make sure that we're planning, and I appreciate the regularity of this look-see and opportunity to speak up about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone online?
No, we do not.
All right. Any questions from council? Okay, we'll go ahead and, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I thought it was interesting that we're going to be fined with, I can't remember what year, but it was in there, probably in another 30 years, we're going to be up to 65%, and we're going, because you've projected on population base and what our usage will be for water. So I thought that was excellent. We were in really good shape along those lines.
All right, thank you. So we will close the public hearing. And I do not believe we need a motion for anything on this item. It takes us to kind of a continuation, which is the next one, which also is listed as a public hearing. So we will have another public hearing on the similar topic of considering adopting resolution number 25665, adopting the City of Arcata 2025 updated urban water management plan and water shortage contingency plan. So we'll go ahead and have a staff report.
Yes, so really a continuation of the last item. Staff's recommendation is to open the public hearing, take public comment, and then to motion to adopt the resolution adopting the urban water management plan, which we will then send to the state by our July deadline.
Thank you. So we will go to public comment. All right. Anyone online?
No.
Okay. Without that, we will close public comment and we can entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 256-65, adopting the City of Arcata 2025 updated urban water management plan and water shortage contingency plan.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thanks. Okay, final item of the evening. The city council values your comments. The public comment period allows people to address the council on matters not on the agenda. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each. Please know that pursuant to the Brown Act, the council cannot discuss or take action items not listed on the agenda. The council may respond to statements. So either please line up at the podium or raise your electronic hand. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Joanne McGarry, and I like to wait till the end because I like to have longer time if I have a lot of things I want to talk about. But I just a couple of major, two things I want to talk about. I attended the Coffee with Cops event on the plaza and had good discussion with several of the officers there, and appreciated their popping up a tent and having that opportunity for dialogue, and I do hope it continues. I have a hard time with the term cop in a lot of ways, so maybe we could try another angle. But what I did talk to them about is something I am a little concerned about in terms of our vulnerable populations that have come here on occasion to express concern about how they feel they are being treated, and that end justifies means concepts. It depends on what we're talking about and what we're doing. And at the time, I was promoting trying to create a legal place for people to relax and indulge in smoking and with their animals that is not the plaza, because what had been happening is an increased patrol and citation giving to people on the plaza that just seemed to not, in my opinion, result in a very comfortable sensation. I felt tension, and I know a lot of other people felt tension. And so I, among others, were trying to figure out ways that we could mitigate a lot of these things and make it a little bit more comfortable for all of us. And so I just kind of wanted to say that I think a citizens task force to really kind of talk about some of these issues would be really a wonderful thing to consider, especially as we're preparing for the fall and winter. And, we could start now in spring. And I have this idea of a stand down concept like they do for veterans out at the fairgrounds, some sort of opportunity to gather people together and figure out what's needed to happen. So the other thing, you were appointing people to a lot of commissions and committees. And I do think, and I've proposed this before, and I talked to a person who was on the Public Safety Committee and proposed the idea of Arcata, like Berkeley and some other communities have, a committee on peace and justice, and to discuss things that come up here at these meetings that really should potentially go to a committee prior to coming here. So Peace and Justice Committee, I know certain people who want to be on it, including me.
Thank you. Do we have anyone online?
We do have one hand raised, but it's the same call-in user who spoke during the early oral communications period earlier in the meeting.
Oh, okay. So just to be clear for the person online, sometimes it can be a little bit confusing. We do things unique in Arcata, and our public comment time is divided between the beginning and the end of the meeting, but it is one item. So if you speak in the beginning, then you cannot speak at the end. So hopefully you got your point across in the beginning. Thanks. That takes us to the city manager's report.
And I don't have anything this evening. Thank you.
All right, no problem. Council reports. All reports shall be specifically limited to items relating to city business and shall not request or lead to action by the council at this meeting. We'll go ahead and start with Councilmember Matthews.
Great, thanks. Thankful to Councilmember Schaefer for her absence that allowed me to go to an RCEA meeting last week. A little bit traumatic, but I did really enjoy having some updates on what's going on at RCEA. So thank you so much for that. I'm looking forward to hearing about your tour, and talked a little bit about the Sandrini facility. So again, it was just really great to dip my toes in that again. And thank you to Vice Mayor Atkins Salazar. I will get to go to my old stopping grounds of HWMA next week. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's going on there. And then I'll have my REDAC meeting as well. I have my Cal Cities Community Development and Economic Policy Committee meeting on Friday. It's our last legislative policy committee meeting of the year. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming across for housing, community, and economic development. And then this next 2 days is the Outdoor Economy Summit that's happening at the Adorney Center. It's by Cal Poly, but there's some really interesting presentations about all things that pertain to the outdoor economy. And then what else did I write? That's it. And again, Oyster Fest kickoff party is tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to all of the festivals coming up, and I think that's it right now.
Yes, thank you, Meredith, for sitting in with me or for me at our CEA when I was not able to make it. And I did have the opportunity, the weekend before that, to travel with some other RCEA board members. And so it was nice to go with some other local council members from Trinidad, Blue Lake, Fortuna, and then me. Yeah, that was it. And then as well as some RCEA staff. So it was really nice to have our director, deputy director, and then our legislative policy director kind of all there, because as we were touring and things were coming up, they were able to ask really good questions, and then also, be able to kind of provide the perspective of, how it impacts RCEA, how it impacts ratepayers. And so, I said the tour and people don't know what I'm talking about. I mean, you do. But I toured the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant, which is owned by PG&E in San Luis Obispo. And you can obviously tell that PG&E is trying to, get elected officials to understand and be on board with nuclear power and what's going on there. And I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about that I'm not going to go into right now. But if you want to talk to me about it, talk to me about it. But it was just fascinating to see. I will say the one thing I was expecting, because they store all of the nuclear waste on site, and I was like, it's going to be so much. It's just going to be everywhere. It has a very small footprint. And I was very shocked by that. So there was a lot of misconceptions I have that were maybe peeled back, but also a lot of things that made me think long and hard. So if you want to talk to me more about it, talk to me about it. But it was a great experience. And that's all. Oh, and also, yes, during the Oyster Fest kickoff party tomorrow, they will also be doing a Pints for Nonprofits for Black Humboldt at the pub. So come out, celebrate the Oyster Fest kickoff, and celebrate my birthday, which is tomorrow. And you can buy me a beer and support Black Humboldt.
Okay, so I was at HTA today, and in 2029, it's going to be required that we have zero emission buses, and we will meet that. We already have 6 hydrogen buses now, and we're expecting the remainder to come. So that's one thing. The other thing I wanted to bring up, because I've been thinking about it, because the Grossman Creek group of people were able to make it happen that they don't have a cell tower. But it's an odd situation. So I'm wondering if that's something we should look at for annexation, because half the city's on one side of Grossman Creek and the other half of the city's on the other. And the creek sort of divides it, but it's not been annexed into the city. So I wanted to bring that up, and I don't know if there's any interest in pursuing that with the council, but I guess someday maybe someone will be interested and maybe say yes. Yes, Alex, I would be interested in helping pursue that. So I went to Reconnecting Arcata in Valley West and also in the downtown. Well, I should say D Street Community Center. You went to Northtown and came back up. And that was really informative, and I thought it was good. Kimberly was with us in both of those venues, or at least at the D Street Community Center for the second one. And I think we'll see what's going to happen with Reconnecting Arcata and looking at that in the future. Also, at that meeting at the D Street Community Center, they brought forth the form-based codes for Valley West. And I thought that's the beginning of thinking about form-based codes. You know, we're really, in my opinion, we're way behind on form-based codes because it was, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 20 years ago, historic preservationists at conferences were talking about form-based codes and how they'd be beneficial for historic structures, etc. So I'm glad to see that we're moving forward with that. The other thing I was thinking about is that I guess I'm thinking about part of it came because of when I was on my trip, there was a person that wanted to come into being part of the vacation rentals, and we have a cap of 2 on it. And I'm wondering if that is the best way for us to be, and maybe we should get rid of our cap. And no, she says. And she says no. But if you look at it, we have a lot of people that have vacation rentals and we're not getting any funding from them. You know that we're really short on bed tax, and that's something we really want. And so I think maybe we'll have to think about it from a different point of view than having it capped. But we have 2 no's and not interested. So I'm bringing it forward anyway because I think we should really revisit it and think about it differently than, oh no, we have them anyway. So they're hidden here and there. So the other thing is, well, this is really crazy, and I should probably wait till we have our economic development plan to even bring it up. But so I will.
Sounds like a plan. I will support the exploration of that odd U shape. The idea of exploring that in Sunnybray, where the cell tower was supposed to go. It's if that makes sense to staff to bring that forward. I'm curious about that. It is a very weird look on the map. Even though we've reached our cap on the
We have a waiting list of 2.
yeah, but if you are an owner, a homeowner who lives there, you're not in the cap, so that's still, available to people that live there. I attended a quarterly meeting with EOPA, which is Elected Officials to Protect America. It's a great organization of folks who work to protect our environment. They push for clean, sustainable energy independence and educate folks about energy security and solutions. So that was a good gathering. Mayor White was also there. I went to the ribbon cutting for the 101 Indianola Underpass, which was wonderful to be able to be part of that ribbon cutting, and also acknowledging that this has been in the works for over 20 years of people. That many people have worked on it, and so to get to go to and be part of the finalization of it was a privilege. And just to let folks know that the corridor, those crossovers will start closing now that we have that in use. And the only way you'll be able to get across the freeway other than that underpass will be where there'll be a half light stoplight over where the airport is. And I'm sure there will be frustration as people have to figure that out and some inconveniences, but in the end, far too many lives have been lost on that. So I support a little bit of an inconvenience in saving lives. And also Mayor White was at that ribbon cutting with me as well. And I'm also working with a student at Cal Poly, and we're working with the principal at Arcata High to develop a program to connect high school students into the council process for hopefully in the fall semester, a mock council experience for them. So we're working on that, and I think it'll be great to kind of get youth excited about what we do here. So I'm looking forward to that. Next item is dates of future.
Could you? How did the meeting go? You on Friday? Didn't you go down to Fort Bragg for League of Cities?
I was unable to attend.
Oh, I just wondered how that went.
I don't think we were represented. Yep, I had a
Okay.
last minute work issue.
Okay, thank you. I just was curious.
Sure.
Thank you.
So dates of future meetings and agenda items. We have confirming a special study session with the Planning Commission regarding land use code updates for June 8th at 5 p.m. in the council chambers. I won't be there. I have work that night. B is schedule a special meeting study session to discuss the city's economic strategic plan. We think we've been emailed about this. It's Monday, June 15th at 2 p.m. in the council chambers. So hopefully folks looks like we've all RSVP'd for that.
So excited for that, by the way.
Great. We don't have a closed session now, but we did have one prior to this meeting, and I neglected to report out at the beginning of the meeting that we did not take action. And with that, we will